So Kara and I are obsessed with trying to have the perfect and best relationship. And one of the things that we've been talking about lately is, what does it look like to have a happy, healthy, joyful, spontaneous, everything you want kind of relationship? And one of the things that we've discovered is that the secret to a happy, healthy marriage, at least from our perspective, is that each person in the relationship has to be a healthy individual. And part of what that means is you have to have a healthy self-love of yourself. Now, we know that that's a term that goes around a lot with all sorts of different definitions. But one of the things that we've realized about what healthy self-love is that you accept yourself just as you are. You accept yourself with all your flaws, and it doesn't mean that you don't try to improve yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't try to be a better version of yourself. It just means that you have self-compassion towards yourself. So even though you've made mistakes in your life, it doesn't mean that you're a mistake. And even though you failed, it doesn't mean you're a failure. And healthy self-love really is about accepting yourself just as you are and being willing to take the next step as you improve yourself.
To give you an example of how we have seen this affect our relationship, I'd like to share with you a little argument we had the other night. David loves to be clean. He's very clean. And I try to be clean. And so we had been really busy and things had gotten a little bit cluttered. So David was working late one night and I went into the kitchen and I cleaned it. I deep cleaned it. Cleaned the grout, cleaned the sink, did the dishes, mopped the floors, everything. And I was so proud because I just knew that when he came home, he was gonna be so happy. So what I didn't do was take out the trash. It was dark outside and also I don't like taking out the trash. So I had left it there in the kitchen and there was also like an old pizza box or something laying on top of it. And so he came in and I thought that he would be like amazed with the kitchen. But instead his first comment was, "You can't take out the trash." And
I think the comment was, "You couldn't take out the trash?"
Yeah, okay. So, but anyway, it doesn't matter what you said. What I heard was, you are not enough, you are not good enough. And so I wasn't able to articulate that to him or really even to myself. So his simple question then became this long drawn out argument of, but look at what all I did and oh my goodness. And we probably argued for like an hour and I think there was some silent treatment in there as well. And when we were finally able to come back to it and I was able to say, listen, what you said didn't bother me, it was how it made me feel. And it pinpointed for me that area where I need to improve that self-love because it wasn't what he said, but it was what I internalized and that, hey, you are not enough. And it was just the trash. And so we were able to kind of realize that and then move forward, but also realize for me how something so little as taking out the trash, when you don't have that positive self-love, even in those little moments can escalate into these huge arguments. And if you can't identify that and resolve it, because this was not about whose turn it was to take out the trash, which it always is, but it was about identifying those places in me where I need to be able to improve my own self-love to make sure that I am a healthy person in our relationship.
Well, and one of the metaphors that we really like to use that Kara actually introduced me to is if you think of a cup of water. If you think of a cup of water and it's full of water, but there's holes at the bottom, what's going to happen? Right? Like the cup is going to empty itself out all the time. And it doesn't matter how much water you keep pouring into it, it's always going to drain. And if we take this metaphor to ourselves as individuals, like if we don't cover up those holes with the right things, we're always going to be trying to cover it with things that aren't really going to last. So for instance, sometimes we try to cover these things up with getting into another relationship right away because we don't like that feeling of loneliness, or we're trying to capture that sense of intimacy we had. But we all know that if you jump into a relationship too quickly or without resolving some of the things that you needed to resolve from the previous one, the hole's gonna get empty again. And so we try to fill these holes with all sorts of things like emotional eating or shopping or spending money or
accomplishments,
yeah.
kids, or anything.
Right, all sorts of things. And in the end of the day, it just acts like a Band-Aid. A Band-Aid may hold that hole for a little tiny bit, but the water's gonna rush through it. And so part of our understanding of a healthy relationship is that we have to work on ourselves to be healthy individuals in order for us to be the best version of ourselves, so that when we are together, then we can have a happy, healthy relationship.
So now you can say you have the secret to having a happy and healthy relationship.
Which is to continue to work on yourself. Like, sure, there's all sorts of things that you can do to communicate better, to resolve your conflict better, to do all those things. But at the end of the day, if you don't work on yourself and make sure that you're not a healthy individual, like, what you're looking for in your current relationship is never going to materialize.
So we encourage you to notice those places in yourself, kind of like my thought of I am not enough, and to keep giving yourself grace and compassion as you continue to learn to love yourself. And realizing that, yeah, it might sound really hard to let go of some of those wounds, but at the same time, it's a lot harder to go through life not having a self-love and not being able to share that love then with other people.